Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of the WCS Sports Connection Coaching's Preview Show. I'm Jeremy Qualls, and today's guest is Coach Donnie Webb from Franklin High School. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Before we get started today, talking about tonight's game, I would like for you to discuss and tell us about your bio, what you've been doing, for us new folks like myself, your coaching career, and how long have you been in Williamson County?
Past 10 years, my family, we moved in 2004. We moved to essentially Thompson Station and went to work at Franklin High in 2004. Tim Johnson was the head coach, but Miss Dickerson was the principal still at that time. And my wife, Lee Webb, Dr. Lee Webb, excuse me, she's Lee to me, is the principal of Centennial. But we wanted to be at Williamson County. Thought it was great. We got two girls now but one was Abby was on the way, and we wanted them to come. We wanted to come to this area, number one for education, and then I kind of pointed at the athletic part of it too. I thought it was pretty good. So we've been here since 2004. I've been at Franklin. I was at Franklin for 7 years. Went to BGA for 2 years, and then the head coaching job came open, and this would be 3 seasons ago, and came back to Franklin High.
So the $1 million question is, when you play Centennial, Dr. Lee Webb, does she come out with a split shirt, maybe one side blue, one side maroon, or how does she play that?
No, absolutely not. Not in this county.
Not in this county. So she plays it down the middle. No. She's Centennial all the way.
Absolutely.
But internally, I bet she's rooting for you.
She likes it to be pleasant at home.
I do give her a hard time when I see her about that and pick at her and see what game she's going to go to of the night. But she does a wonderful job, and I know you're proud of the fact of that. Let's talk about your coaching staff. Let's highlight your coaches, what they do, their job descriptions.
Offense coordinator is Dan Winfrey. He's been in the county for a while as well. He was at Brentwood High School. Been coaching several different places, Lincoln County, years past. He's our offense coordinator, coaches our quarterbacks. And our offensive line is Ben Kuhn. This is his second year at Franklin High. He came to us from Coffee County High School. He's a young coach, real energetic, does a really good job, great with the kids, super with the kids. Our tight ends coach, H, we're kind of as we talk about our offense, we not always have a tight end sitting in there, right. So we called an H back, and it's Tony Keaton. He's now been at Franklin High for, I believe this is his 9th year. And our wide receivers coach is Andrew Tomlinson. He's a graduate of Franklin High, and I think year 5, I believe it is, at Franklin. No, excuse me, time flies, year 8 at Franklin High. And we also have a freshman varsity assistant, Tucker Cathy, who is also a graduate of Franklin High School, but he helps in the offense and the defense with the freshman side of it. That is our offensive staff. Defensively, I coach on defense. I coach the outside linebackers. Coach Travis Shepard, this will be his second year at Franklin High. He's from Alabama, from the state of Alabama, and moved up here. He coaches our inside linebackers. Coach Ken Curtis, who has been at Franklin High School for 32 years. Wow. It does show it's a great place. People want to be there and stay there. But he coaches our defensive line and our special teams. Got Coach Kevin Weeks, who is also a Franklin High graduate. He coaches in our secondary. It's his second year. And Coach Marshall Winkler. This is year 10, going on year 10 for him because he's the same as me.
Well, you notice when you have a full staff, first and foremost, I know it's exciting as a head coach to have a full coaching staff that when you go out to practice, everybody is planning for their own specific areas. And then as you're a head coach, you can step back and go into, when you break into your breakout sessions, you can watch your linemen doing their things and their offensive skill players doing their things and the coaches getting after it. And I know that's exciting as a head coach to see that. Number 2 is, I noticed that a lot of your coaches are alumni of Franklin High School, which I find interesting. So you do not have to sell them on the pride of the school. Obviously, it's there. They
Obviously.
graduated. The coaches that may not be from Franklin High School or alumni of Franklin High School have been there a long period of time. So that speaks volumes for your school, for your environment. We were just discussing off air, talking about your pep rally last Friday when you played Northeast, and I like to travel around and see all the pep rallies, and that was the best pep rally that I think I've ever been involved in.
It was pretty awesome. The Rebellion, which is our student cheer group leader, I don't know if it's the correct name for them, but they really did spend some time. We've got some teachers that are involved with it, spent some time with it, wanted it to be extra special, and it really was. It wasn't about just football. It was about Franklin High School, and it was about being involved. It was pretty intense, pretty awesome.
I think it comes naturally. Being the oldest school in the district, the Franklin High School, that tradition continues on with the Rebellion, and those things happen. I think that's important for your environment. And I think you noted as well that it was extremely important for your guys to see that environment and be a part of that prior to going into last Friday's ball game. Mm-hmm. And you think that probably carried over into the game?
Oh, without a doubt. Our student section and our student section gets twice the size because our band is sitting there with probably 200 members. Right. It gets really loud, and kids feed off of that energy, and so I do think they have a factor in the game. We hope a positive factor in the game, and like you said, that our kids feed off that energy.
And sometimes that's difficult as a head coach because you go into a particular scenario where you have, as a head coach, you have to sell your program. You have to go out and get people involved. In this case, man, it's just built in and it's natural. Not only that, it's awesome part to be a part of. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Let's back up for a second. Let's talk about your seniors. Your senior spotlight. I know that you have 28 seniors. You have a lot. Let's get some spotlights on some of those guys.
What I'm going to do, because it'd be impossible to go through every one of them, and I would leave off maybe even the most important, because, I mean, it's cliche, but the weakest link is that small end of that chain,
Right.
And everybody's a part of that chain. But I want to mention on our offensive side of the ball, start with our seniors who have actually started since they were a sophomore. That was when I was hired 2 seasons ago, mm-hmm. and these kids were all out there playing, and they still are now. And one reason why I think we're doing well and have the chance to do well. We have in the offensive line, there's Francois Muhlman. Francois was voted, the seniors got to vote one captain, and then the team's going to vote some more captains. And the seniors voted him team captain. And Francois, like I said, he has started every game since he was a sophomore. Good football player, good high school player. He's kind of quiet, but he does his job. Mm-hmm. Really good player. We also have that start all the time. Luke Hill is that a receiver. We have and Luke's the same way. A lot of these guys are really lead by example leaders. That they're not very vocal kids, but they're doing what they need to do. And Luke is definitely one of those, real hard worker. I'm going to add to the next one too. Joe Critchlow, our quarterback. Him, Francois, and there's going to be more, and Luke have started every game since they were a sophomore, and all 3 of them have plus 30s on the ACT. So,
wow.
I mean, it's and there's more kids on our team that are like that, but it's pretty awesome.
Special, yeah.
It is. It's pretty awesome. Other seniors that are playing in our offense, Jackson Sweat is playing at our H/Y. You'll see him line up at fullback, tight end,
right?
And then in a slot position. Parker Pinnell is a senior. He was a transfer to us a year ago, but he is playing in our offense. And a big one that I've been mentioning all the time is Bryce Milam. He has not started till he was a senior, but he's a product of the program. He stayed with it. He didn't not walking around moping because he was the backup.
And sometimes those type kids right there, the kid that comes into the program that may not be the most talented, the most athletic, but have such a work ethic and heart. Those sometimes are, as you see them go through the maturation process and they get to be seniors and finally maybe contribute to the team. Those are sometimes the most fulfilling.
Oh, without a doubt, and that's why we really have been blessed with and happy with Bryce's production this fall through the camp and into the start of the season. And then also up on the offensive line, there's another senior. It's Eric Dahlman. I should have added him to it because it just popped in my head. There's a fourth one. There's a 30-plus ACT.
Wow.
And they're really 32, 33s. I mean, we don't have to tell them once a lot of times which way to go.
I can honestly say I think you could add both my ACT attempts up and probably might get to the 32.
Might throw mine in there too.
So let's talk about, you mentioned some of these guys in the offensive role. So let's talk about the offensive side of the ball for you guys this year. When we come to games, what are we expected to see? What type of offense we're going to run? And who are some of those people on the offensive side of the ball that are really going to stand out?
Well, I mean, if people truly know me, they realize that I'm trying to stay away from the offense and let those guys work, those offensive coaches work.
Who's your offensive coordinator? I know you mentioned it earlier.
Dan Winfrey's a coordinator,
okay.
And they all work together, Coach Tomlinson and Coach Kuhn and Coach Keaton. And because it would be 3 yards in a cloud of dust with me, and then let's punt the football.
Conservative
and
maybe a little bit.
Play a little defense. But I do realize that you've got to throw the ball to win. You've got to run the ball to win. And so that's what I did like about it, that we tried to be balanced. Offensively, I would call us multiple formation, basing out of the eye.
Okay.
But say that, we're rarely in the eye. But we do, day one, go out there, we're in the I formation. That's what we start from. But for lack of a better term, it's football lingo of today, I would call us a pro set multiple.
Okay, all right. So coming with the pro set, it automatically seems that you like to throw the ball. Now, I don't know if that's your personal belief, but your offensive coordinators probably like to throw some. And we're going to look at the Northeast stats here from last week where you guys had 16 completions on 20 attempts, which to me, ought to make you feel really good. So let's talk a little bit about your quarterback.
Joe, like I said, he's been in essentially the same offense. Now, Dan came over. This is his second year with us. He was not with us the first year. But we took a lot of the same terminology from the first year that we came in 3 years ago. And with that being said, so you're talking about a good player, a good athlete in Joe that's also a smart kid.
Right.
This is, he knows everything just like everybody else. They're talking about the basis of the plays.
And put it in basketball terms, you got to have your point guard has to be the smartest player on the team. And in football, your quarterback has to be the smartest on the team. And you happen to have a good athlete, a kid that has started since his sophomore year with a 30-plus on his ACT. So, I mean, it kind of you have a perfect mold of exactly what you're looking for.
And it doesn't help he's 6'4".
And he's got height. And so everything.
He's a good kid.
So
he's a real good kid.
That's a good scenario. What about your running back positions, your backs? Who's
we got two seniors that are running in the backfield. We have Bryce Milam, who I already mentioned, and Malik Grimes. They will share the carries for the most part. Bryce probably had more carries last week, but you'll start seeing that kind of change through because Malik played more defense, especially while it's hot.
Sure.
We're trying to be smart as coaches of where we're playing our kids as well.
With that being said, how many players roughly do you have that probably go both ways?
Now, if you came to practice, it would look like several because we call them flip guys. They'll flip through the staff. Some of them stay just on defense, some of them stay just on offense, and then the freshmen are coming through as well. But in the course of the game, we wrote it up the other day. We have 7 kids that you'll see on both sides of the ball.
Okay, and total kids for your program, let's talk varsity first. How many total kids do you have for your program?
Right now on the roster, we have 86 on the varsity, 43 on the freshman.
So, okay, you have a full staff, full group of kids. I mean, it's a full-time job with that amount of folks. Briefly, before we go to break, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. who we're going to see on defense, what kind of defense. This is your specialty area, so I'm getting to your spot. So let's talk about the defensive side of the ball real quick.
We have one kid over there that has started since he was a sophomore. I mentioned some of those kids on offense. His name is Gracia Catera. He's a corner. He started every game since he was a sophomore. Obviously, he's starting this year. But our strength seems to be our two defensive linemen inside. We have Booth Page and Josh Philby.
Okay.
They're inside line. One's an end. Philby plays tackle and end, plays more inside than outside, but Booth plays outside as an end. Both of those are returning starters. They are the only 3 returning starters from last season. So it's been a work in progress through camp. I do think this goes back long before I was here. It goes back to coaches before me that there's a tradition of playing hard. They really do. They play physical and try to play fast.
And that's great because sometimes you can't coach that. Sometimes they either have it or they don't. So
and these kids do that again. I saw that last week, and so there's going to be. Right now, there are no names, but I think before as we move on through, you'll hear a lot of kids make plays for us defensively.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to speak to Coach Donnie Webb from Franklin High School about last week's game against Northeast and tonight's game versus Dixon. This is the WCS Sports Connection Show. Stay with us.
What a great way to get some exercise and spend time with your family. Hi, I'm Steve Hayslip.
And I'm his son, Paul Hayslip.
And today we're going to show you some rules of the road that you may not have thought about that apply to bike riders. Let's go. That's good. Good pace. On narrow roads like this, cyclists should leave at least 2 car lengths in between riders. That way the cars have room to get in between the cyclists and pass them individually. You take the lead. Stay to the right. When approaching a stop sign or a traffic light, if a car and cycle are arriving at the same time, the car needs to stay back just a bit, allowing the cyclist room to move in front into the turn lane. This allows the cyclist to turn left safely. If the lane is too narrow, or if the cyclists are traveling pretty much the same speed as traffic, then the cyclists have the right to come out and take the lane.
Just remember that everyone has a right to the roadway. It is a public road, but everyone has to observe the rules of the road. They apply to the motorists and the bicyclists alike.
Well, those are just some of the rules. Mainly, stay safe and have fun. And most of all,
Enjoy the ride.
Welcome back to the WCS Sports Connection Coaches Preview Show. I'm Jeremy Qualls, and with us today is Franklin High School Coach Donnie Webb. Let's talk about last Friday night's football game against the Clarksville Northeast Eagles. And that game was at home. We had a large crowd, great environment, a great win for you guys. Let's talk about that game a little bit. Let's talk about offensively what we happened. We mentioned earlier that Critchlow went 16 of 20 for 159 yards and had 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So let's start there.
Biggest thing he did was also 7 different receivers. That to me, we're putting the ball where the ball needs to go. We're not trying to force it just to one certain person. We had several kids catch the football. I thought Joe, like we mentioned earlier, did what Joe's capable of doing. And now we want to continue to do it against good people, and they will. Carson Young, I believe, was our leading receiver. He had the first touchdown of 2014 because he caught a little screen pass. And
so is that a little internal thing that everybody's wanting to get the first touchdown of the season?
So he got the first one, and Jackson Sweat got the other touchdown pass, and then the other 2 came from the other 3, excuse me. Malik had 2 rushing, and Bryce had 1 rushing.
Well, you want him to be a game manager, and obviously you can't go out and make the decisions for him. So he's making the right decisions. You mentioned when we were off air that you were lacking the big play, the big stellar play, but at the same time we got the W. Not only we get the W, we had a big W with a shutout on the end of that. So you look at it. Okay, we didn't have the long bomb or the long run, but you had 7 different receiver catch passes and 0 interceptions. So, I mean, there's a silver lining in everything, even though it may not be as glamorous or pretty as some of the long runs or the long passes that we've had in the system this year, but it still results in a W, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
All right, I'm proud for the kids, excited for the kids, and you already mentioned it, but it really was for it to be a non-district game, that was a great home crowd, and it was a really fun atmosphere last Friday night. But and that's what we're preaching as coaches is we did not have the silly penalties. We had one that cost us a touchdown that came back. We had illegal formation, but because we can't do that because we're not making the explosive plays, and they're going to come. Then we can't have the penalties to hold us back because we're not getting the big yardage plays.
Well, looking over your rushing yardage here, you had several people with over 40 yards rushing in the game. One was 70. Let's talk about your backs and how they did.
The big thing we were, once again, it was balanced, and the Malik Grimes, Bryce Milam, and Kyle Evans all came. Only one of Kyle's was the backup quarterback, so only one of his runs came when the game was out of hand. I guess what I'm saying, when we were still dispersing the ball within the game plan, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So once again, several different kids involved with the offense, so I think it's good. All that we always forget. We don't get to mention them enough. And I guess being an old lineman,
right.
They have a whole lot to do with that.
They're in the trenches every night, every day, and they're making the things happen that people don't see nor get on the stat sheet for.
Exactly,
So.
they never do, and that's, I think they're my favorite because they don't complain about it and just keep working.
But obviously, if your quarterback goes 16 of 20 with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, that something's going right. That the offensive line is doing their job and protecting the quarterback, and also when you have the guys rushing for what they do, they're providing the gaps to get the rushing. So let's
0 sacks. That's the big,
0 sacks. That's even
sacks.
a better stat.
Yes.
That's a stat that I know that you talk about in
Yes.
practice and during the game plans. Let's talk about tonight's game. Tonight's game is huge. It's against Dixon County. It's a district game. Those guys coming in. And I know that you want to get off on a good note in the district. You start off 1-0. So let's talk about Dixon. What do we expect to see from your side of the ball, from the defensive side of the ball? When we line up as Franklin lines up, what do we expect to see from Dixon?
Well, this past weekend when I turned the film on, I thought I had the wrong film because I grew up in West Tennessee, Henry County High School, and we always played Dixon County, and it was always 3 backs running it downhill at you. It's what you grew up knowing about Dixon County, and they are just like everybody else now in 2014. That they do not have a tight end. They've got everybody spread out. Kind of, I'll call it an Auburnistic, kind of like it's everybody's going to now with the Auburn type offense. Hurry up, still running the football, but it's hurry up and throwing the bubble screens outside type thing. And they got a really good football player. We know him as numbers, number 35. I almost say his name wrong. It's Wilcott. But his dad was a famous golfer in that area. Walcott. Yes. His son's a really good high school football player.
Is he?
And he's playing for him. Quarterback gets the ball to several different people. Got a couple of skilled kids in the backfield that if we don't tackle in space, they got an opportunity to score. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us, but we're excited about playing a district game.
Well, you spoke of Walcott. Bob Walcott lives in the Dixon area, owns the Greystone Golf Course over. His younger son, is playing for the University of Tennessee, golfer. And so he has a lineage of athletic ability in his family. And
See, Coach Winfrey knows everybody. As soon as he saw the name, he goes, "Oh, that's Bob's son."
Bob's son, yep. So it's funny that you mentioned the Auburn, the bubble screens. You see a lot of that, whether it's on Friday night, whether it's on Saturday, maybe even on Sundays, where they throw out to the bubble screens and let their other receivers block down the field. Do you feel like if you can see that coming, if you can go through and fight through, that you might get some knockdowns or even some interceptions off those bubble screens?
We hope so. We're doing some things defensively, that we are looking for to try to give them a couple different looks. But the main thing is stay disciplined. It's still gap control football. That
Right.
just happens to be the D gap, and it's just
Right.
wider.
Well, and on that thing, I'm kind of like you on a basketball sense that I didn't go for the steals very much. I'd rather play at home, good, solid defense. Make them beat you with a play. Where you're mentioning the same thing, that if I go for the interception and miss, you're going to give up the big yardage in the big game. So you just kind of stay at home, play the game, and play your gap, and make them beat you with a big play. Hopefully that won't happen. What about defensive on the side of the ball? What is Dixon going to try to run at us defensively? Run it at Franklin High School.
They're a 4-3 cover 2. It's very difficult to get them out of it. They want to stay in it. They're coaching it well. They're very sound in what they do. Walcott, is that how you say his
That's
name?
Walcott.
Yeah, okay. He's the middle linebacker.
Okay.
And he's a pretty good football
So is
player.
he long and rangy? Does he like to make or does he sit back and let the plays come, or does he try to come
No,
up a little bit?
he's a what I'd call a Mike linebacker. He goes and plugs holes and pretty physical when he gets there. Like I said, once again, he's a good high school football player, and he's going. We're gonna have to know where he is and work from there. Their secondary is athletic, but we saw a lot of athletes last week, and so our kids just need to do it the same thing, and
Right.
And if they give us the numbers to throw the football, we need to be able to throw and catch, and then that gets the linebackers out of the box to where we can run the football, and that's what we try to do.
So you're going to try to do you foresee yourself maybe throwing some more passes, or just trying to throw those dink passes like you were last week? Just try to pick them off to get them a little bit out of their comfort zone to get into the running game.
If they're gonna,
or does the running game open up your throwing game?
It's sad for me to say sometimes, but our passing game really opens up our running game, because we're not a power football team. We can do it, but we're not. And so we have to get them linebackers out of the box to worry about covering the pass so that we can run, slice Malik and Bryce through there.
So you think could possibly going to come off with I know this is a question that I ask every coach, because I know in basketball we kind of do the same thing. Do you have your plays pretty much scripted? Your first series, are those set in stone as you watch your game film and watch the scout tape and say, okay, here's what we're going to do the first series, and we're going to do this, and then after that happens, whatever we get off the first series, then we kind of make a plan of action from there.
Yeah, or a lot of times in football you will formation early. You'll get in a lot of different formations because you're looking for something, the way they adjust to that formation, and then work from there. So we don't have a per se, this is exactly the script like some coaches do, but we do have formations put in there. Dan does a really good job of that, because we're coming back to it. He just wants to see how they're going to adjust.
It's just like a big chess match.
Yeah.
If I go in this formation, what's their defense do? Then I have a plan A, B, and C off that.
Yes.
Vice versa. I go to this formation. They make one small adjustment. It's almost like a game of poker, and they tip their hand. Then we go to that plan of attack.
Right. Yes.
Well, we look forward to seeing what happens tonight. I know that you're anxious. Your guys are anxious. You're ready to go against this district opponent in Dixon. The kickoff tonight is at 7 o'clock. The Rebellion will be strong tonight. Everybody will be there, and I know that
ready.
Dixon will travel well, because that's traditionally always Dixon always travels well. And come out and see some great football action tonight. Hope that your guys Critchlow and those pick Dixon apart. We look forward to seeing you guys tonight. Like I said, kickoff tonight is at 7 o'clock with Dixon coming in town at Franklin High School. This has been Jeremy Qualls, Athletic Director for WCS. This has been the Sports Connection Show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
My name is Caitlin, and my book is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. My favorite part was when Edward got thrown off the boat and he got found by a fisherman and his wife. I think other people would like this book because it's really good adventure and it has really good pictures.